Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for our weekly track roundup, where I get into the worst tracks of the week, best tracks of the week, the tracks that I was just merely kind of indifferent toward. Got quite a few tracks here this week to show you guys, but first, before I get fully into it, I want to say if you want to support this segment, hit up the Amazon Associates link down there in the description box. If you use it and you live in the US, anything you buy on Amazon, we get kickback from it. Does not add to your overall price, and that is that. Just use it to buy some stuff you were going to buy anyway. And I also want to give a shout out to the new Skitcast album from the Double D's podcast. My good buddies Dom and D Respect over at the Double D's podcast came together with a bit of a comedy album. Yours truly is featured on a track, and I think generally the Skitcast album is pretty funny. I enjoy a lot of the skits that they kick their podcast off with, so of course I knew I was going to enjoy at least a bulk of what was on this album. There's actually a pretty hilarious Bernie Sanders sketch on there that I liked quite a bit. The iTunes link is down there in the description box. I implore you guys to check that out as well, especially if you've heard the collaborations that I've done with these guys in the past. Both of them appeared on the Touche mixtape that came out not too long ago. I know I have done a video with Dom where we read Death Grips lyrics. I've done numerous videos with D Respect where we've reviewed some albums together, so you guys may already be familiar with their work. All right, let's get into these tracks. First, worst tracks of the week. First one's not even really a track, but rather a performance. Corey Feldman made a stop by the Today Show to perform a song that I've already said in a previous segment was horrible. A track called Go For It from his latest record, pictured here. It's a double album. I'm very tempted to do a not good on this album because it is terrible. It is like awful track after track after track, and not even just awful, but hilariously awful. Like at points as hilariously awful as like Speeding Bullet to Heaven. But the thing is, a lot of people don't really care about Corey Feldman. So if I were to come up and be like, hey guys, this Corey Feldman record's terrible, a lot of people would just be like, who's that, Anthony? Because, you know, he's a bit of an 80s relic, you know, but if you're from that era, you remember him. And hopefully you make some time to listen to this new record because it is hilariously bad. And this little Today Show performance is particularly funny and cringy. All right, moving on from there, let's get into the legitimately the worst tracks of the week. Gotta give it to Wavves on this one. This is not the worst track of the week. This is just one of them. We're getting to that. Wavves, they did a cover recently of one of my favorite Weezer tracks. You Gave Your Love to Me Softly. They absolutely bring nothing whatsoever to the cover. A lot of bands like Weezer back in the day were kind of stereotyped and pigeonholed as these slacker rock bands. But if you actually listen to a real life group of slackers try to cover this song, it sounds terrible. It's utterly boring. Vocals are awful. The musicianship is shoddy at best. There's really nothing to like about this version. You know, it's not like Wavves put a spin on it on this track or anything. It just sounds like a lazier, worse recorded version of the worst performed version of the track. So yeah, I guess if you want to hear a lackluster version of a great song, then give a listen to this Wavves cover. Moving on from there, Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick do a track called True Colors for the Trolls the Trolls soundtrack for the new Trolls movie that's coming out, and it is a cloying, terribly written ballad, super corny, makes me sick. And moving on, OG Maco with the song No Love. A lot of people were hyping this track to me. Just sounds like an auto-tuned mess that has no redeeming characteristics to it whatsoever. It's like if Future had even less sense about him and had absolutely no clue what he was doing. That's how this song sounds to me. And finally, the worst track of the week. Conclusively worst track of the week has to be this new Clams Casino song with Lil B titled Live My Life. Lil B, I understand, Bass God, I get all that stuff, okay? I get it. I get the meme. I understand the joke, okay? I understand the mindset, okay? But there are just some lyrics on this track that are absolutely inexcusable, where I think he raps that he's He's a white man trapped in a black man. He's a black man trapped in a white man, and he's trapped in a Sprite can. Again, there's some absolutely hilarious shit on this track. It's bad. And what's even worse is the instrumental on this track. Like, it's not even just that Little B's lyrics on this track are awful. It's also Clams Casino's beat on this thing. It sounds like that kind of stuttering bit of percussion from that beat to that song. It sort of escapes me, but the R&B hook on the track. It's a kind of like classic little R&B and rap tune. At night I dream of you, to be your baby. You know the song. The instrumental sounds like a worse version of that. Sorry, the track is just escaping my mind at the moment. Listen, I lived through the 90s. I don't remember everything about the 90s. Okay, I'm trying to spend most of my days forgetting about the 90s. All right, so just leave me be. So those are the worst tracks of the week. So again, all this stuff is listed and referenced down there in the description box. So if you're morbidly curious, by all means. Let's get into the tracks I was merely kind of indifferent toward, didn't care for that much, or I thought were just kind of okay, and I'm recommending them to you guys because you might enjoy them a little more than me. Meh. This section is for me. We have Marching Church, which, is a project that is related to one of my favorite bands, Ice Age. And this new track, Lion's Den, is a really odd track, kind of this odd, awkward falsetto experimental rock cut that did not vibe with me at all. I did not dig the vocals on this thing, especially. I was kind of wondering what the hell was going on there, but it might be interesting to hear some of these weird ideas maybe tinkered with a little bit more and groomed to the point where they make more sense on an Ice Age record. I really don't know. Moving on from there, we have Planes Mistaken for Stars with the song Riot Season. This is a nice little chaotic piece of loud rock over here from the people over at the Death Wish label. Didn't strike me as particularly distinct, but it had its moments and it has some kind of fun little guitar leads. Deerhoof has a Xiu Xiu cover out in the style of White Reaper of the song High. And White Reaper, if you may or may not know, is a cool little garage rock band over on the Polyvinyl label. However, this track doesn't really sound like anything to me other than Deerhoof kind of extending the garage rock vibes that they were doing on their latest full-length record, which were okay. It wasn't really like my favorite sound of all the sounds that Deerhoof has tinkered with over the years, and it just kind of seems like they're continuing to do it on this little Xiu Xiu cover. If you're a Deerhoof fan, if you're a Xiu Xiu fan, it's worth checking out. Then we have Justice with the song Randy. I loved the last Justice single. I was pretty excited by it, but this new one over here totally underwhelmed me. Didn't really care for it. To me, sounded like a version of one of the bad falsetto vocal songs off of the latest Daft Punk record. It's like Daft Punk has to do a little weird falsetto vocal disco throwback, and now Justice has to do it on their record or something. And it's just not as good. Don't care for the tune, don't care for the vocals. Just really kind of an underwhelming moment for me, which is disappointing because their last record had such a nasty groove to it. Their last single had me excited for this new record, but maybe they'll pull through on the deep cuts. Well, we will see. Moving on from there, we have the Men with the song Lion's Den, another track titled Lion's Den in this tracks roundup. And the Men, ever evolving, they've done some noise rock, they've done some hardcore 90s shit, they've done I'm trying to think of it, they've done country, I believe, on their records before. They're really hard to predict. You never know what the hell the Men are going to do. But on this new record over here, they're going straight experimental noise rock, and they do it some justice, Again, I think it does kind of suffer from the fact that the Men are always changing their sound so often that they never sink into something so far that they carve out a niche for themselves in it. But I do think they kind of tried their hand at this very chaotic noise rock style and passed with somewhat flying colors. It is a kind of fun track. So, amen to them. Jenny Hval comes through with the song Period Piece, a new Adult Swim single, which doesn't sound too bad. Not quite as indulgent and taxing as some of the songs that she has been dropping recently. Is a pretty direct and airy and ethereal little art pop tune, I guess you could say, that's pretty enjoyable. Moving on, Dwight Yoakam with a little Prince cover, Purple Rain. Not crazy head over heels for it. It's just kind of merely a country rework of the classic pop song. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I would highly recommend you checking this out because the performance is at least good. Moving on from there, Joyce Manor with Last You Heard Me, which is a bit of a bland 90s throwback for the band. And the band has always been hugely influenced by that era of rock music, but they've at least always come through with a decent hook, to back a track up. But this particular instance, not so much. It's just kind of a very low-key cut that didn't leave much of an impression on me. But the Joyce Manor fans out there, take notice. New record on the way, new track. And to round out the Mad Tracks section, Touche Amore with the song Rapture. These new songs the band has been dropping, just not really as raw, just not really as raw and as emotionally potent as I enjoy their past material, as I know their past material to be. That's really kind of what I enjoy their past material for. And it seems like with that previous track they dropped that was super atmospheric and airy, that just had no guts to it, and this new track over here is kind of it's really kind of melodic and straightforward, and it's a little catchy, which is fine. The band doesn't want to do the same thing forever, but it just didn't really strike me as that captivating of a song, I guess. It kind of felt like Touche Amore was turning down the intensity in favor of just doing something a little more instantaneous, I guess. But moving on from there, we're going to get into the best tracks of the week. In my opinion, these tracks are the best that I heard this past week. We have Warehouse with the song Super Low, band that I've never heard of before, and they're doing kind of a jangle pop on this thing, but it has like the oddest vocals that I've ever heard on a rock instrumental of this style. They're super raspy and weird and have kind of a cartoony vibe to them. But I would never imagine in a million years these kinds of vocals over a jangle pop instrumental, but it works so well. It's got a lot of character to it. It's got a lot of personality. It's pretty eccentric, and I would say the song is catchy too. Open Mike Eagle does a fun little They Might Be Giants cover of the song Cowtown on video. I don't know if there's an MP3 floating around of it or anything like that, but it is a kind of spacey, atmospheric cover. He doesn't exactly, do the kind of upbeat tempo that the song rides at originally. He really just kind of spaces it out and does something a little more airy and meditative with the track, which I thought was pretty cool. And, I love that Open Mike Eagle is one of the few rappers out there who, sort of openly appreciates They Might Be Giants in the way that he does. Something that a lot of rock and pop artists don't even do, which I think they should, because They Might Be Giants, incredible duo. Came out with some of the greatest rock and pop music of the 80s and 90s, in my opinion. It is a little nerdy and dorky. I understand. I get it. But, they have their kind of idiosyncratic nature to them that keeps some people from being into them all that much. But I think they write great music. All right, Tony Molina. My dude Tony Molina has a new EP coming out on Slumberland Records. I imagine that this one as well is going to be very short, to the point, have a bunch of 1-minute songs on it, especially with this very, very dreary acoustic 1-minute ballad on here titled See Me Fall, which I thought was pretty heartbreaking. Moving on to Kim Gordon of Sonic Youth fame has a new record on the way. The song is lead single, Murdered Out. And this song kicks fucking ass. This is a fantastic track. This is a fantastic freaking track. Like, I'm looking at myself smiling right now because I want to make sure that I'm like giving you guys the correct reaction here, because it is a really good song. Like, the groove on the song is insane. Her vocals are so deadly and nasty and mean, and some of the guitar sounds on this thing are killer. So the track really lives up to the Murdered Out title. The first thing that I thought was, like, when I saw this title was Murdered Out Windows, 2 Exits, and I was like, this is going to be as badass as Death Grips. And I don't know why I was making that comparison. I'm just a moron. But then when the song actually started to play, I was like, holy shit. It's like fucking hardcore as hell. So give a listen to this track if you're into some noise rock and that kind of thing. Entrance with Promises. This is kind of a very, another group that I'm not familiar with, a very dark, dreary little ballad that has a ever so familiar lead melody and chord progression. Couldn't quite place it, but the very dark lyrics and very personal lyrics on this track kind of struck me as being very entertaining and, sort of struck a chord with me, I'll say. Car Bomb with Sets. This is a little metal track that has some odd riffs and grooves to it. Like, and I don't mean odd like, hey, they're super experimental or, avant-garde or anything like that. I mean odd in terms of like the time signature just seems like it's always shifting or something. There's just something about the groove and rhythm of this track that is really off-putting and interesting as well. But still the band manages to keep it really visceral with just these guttural screams and growls. It's a pretty nasty track. Gonna be pretty intrigued about what this band is doing in the future. I remember hearing their past material and not being like totally crazy about it, but this new track over here I thought was pretty impressive. Bozack Morris with Never Change, featuring Conway and Westside Gunn. This is a grimy ass rap track, one of the grimiest ass rap tracks I've heard in a while. It's got a bit of a lo-fi boom bap flavor to it, and just the kind of vocal delivery that just makes you want to just go mean mugging throughout the whole track, like this is nasty. So moving on from there, we have Diploid from Australia. This is a bit of an extreme music act. I believe I met some people from the band when I did a live performance, like a speaking engagement down there in Australia a little while ago. And I just kind of stumbled across their record. They might have sent it to me. Someone else might have sent it to me. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this is like some grindcore. It's really spazzy. It's really noisy. It's colorful. It's not kind of your, meat and potatoes grindcore. It's like really shrill and in your face and like abrasive. It's not like, super brutal or anything like that. It's just more freakish, I would say, than brutal. So this track is titled Barrels. Definitely make sure to check that track out, but their entire record is up on Bandcamp as well. So give a listen to any and all of the tracks if you're into, sort of extreme music, grindcore, spazziness, frantic, intense music. And we are going to end things out with Ghost, who dropped the track Square Hammer, which I believe is a part of a handful of different tracks that the band has dropped recently. This track is incredibly catchy. Don't really know what else to say about Ghost at this point, other than that they're still fucking killing it. Some people are, kind of disappointed with Ghost's recent material, but I think it's really good. And this track to me had a pretty unique edge to it with the lyrics and the narrative that the band was kind of pulling together. Super eerie, and the video was as well as really cool, which we will link you down there in the description box too. Okay. So those are my favorite tracks of the week, best tracks of the week, rather. The tracks that was kind of indifferent toward meh, and the worst tracks of the week. Again, they're all down there along with the Amazon Associates link, which if you live in the US, we please ask you that you use. And also that Dubl D's Sketchcast album, which I am featured on. Would love for you guys to check that out as well. And that has been this episode of the weekly track roundup. We're going to leave it at that. Thank you for watching. Hope you're doing well. And like this video forever.